Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Two Doctors and a Twist. Uh, I'm here with Dr. Jamie Chesler, and our special guest today is Sheila Carmichael. She's a master coach and wow, you all are in for a treat. This lady has a background that won't wait. I am so ready to dive in and ask her tons of questions because I know that our audience will love it. Uh, Sheila, we have an audience of, we're in 17 countries and 250 plus cities. And so we know we have an audience out there that's listening and they're asking for things like what you're about to bring to us. So, girl, we are ready to go. We are ready to get started. And like I said, I didn't say this, Dr. Carmichael or Sheila, she's going to be doctor after a while. She is going to talk to us today about leadership blind spot, what changes after the promotion. Now, why is it that we're talking about this? Well, we see that a lot of people, once they get a promotion, things change. They have blinders on. And so Sheila is going to talk to us about that. Um, in addition to that, Dr. Jamie and I have some questions to ask, or Jamie and I, we're going to put it on first name basis here. Jamie and I have some questions for Sheila, and we're going to start with our opening is the moment after the promotion. And so, what we want to do, I'm going to frame the question here. One of the hardest leadership moments isn't the climb, it's the moment after the promotion when the rules quietly change. So, Sheila, you talk about that moment no one prepares leaders for. What actually changes after the promotion that most leaders underestimate? And before you answer that question, I want you to talk a little bit about you and your journey, why you're here in this space for executive coaching to our audience so they know a little bit more about you.
Well, thank you both, Marilyn and Jamie. I am just so filled with joy to be here with you because this topic is near and dear to my heart. And I'll tell you why. Over 30 years of working within corporate America in various different roles, but many of the duties, and the one I really, really loved was the one where I had to help senior executives think differently about their talent. So whether it was during succession planning and they're going into the next role, they're trying to slate people, okay, who's going to be the primary selection should this role become open and who's the backup? What if something comes up that was unexpected and you needed to slot someone into that role? So this topic is near and dear to my heart. I was the talent management guru for many different organizations. And that's why this is so passionate for me because I've not only heard the conversations behind those closed doors and the things that they would say, I would also support the people as they were transitioning into these roles. So I'm seeing both sides of those lenses, right? Who's getting selected, and then when they get in, all the swirl that goes on and all the expectations that are happening from both rooms. So I love this. So when you say in that moment, that's silent, you are absolutely right.
Oh my gosh. And you say 30 years you've been doing,
Over 30 years. Yeah.
listen, Sheila,
Yes.
you probably have heard this already before. You don't look a day over 40. So when did you start? When you were 10? Were you
I'll
10
take
years
it.
old when you started this, girl?
I will
Don't
take
give
it.
a
I'm
certain
just
age,
gonna
but
say thank you, God, and thank you, Mom and Dad. They're up on my wall there. I'll just give credit to those two sets of G's.
that is awesome. That is awesome. I mean, I like that you were in the room with them,
Mhm.
with these executives, and you had that firsthand experience. I was reading your bio and I saw some of the companies, some of the consulting firms that you work for. And I thought, how amazing, especially right now in the consulting world, there are so many changes happening,
Mhm.
and they're looking for a different type I was sharing with Jamie about a week or so ago that some consulting firms are coming to us and saying, we'd like to partner with you all, see what's happening, see, bring you on board as far as with some of our clients to ease in that transition. So I think that world is definitely changing and they want more hands-on experience, not just people that's right out of Ivy League grad school or things of that nature. They want to know that you have the knowledge as well as the experience, as well as the ability to articulate and help them manage this change that they're going through. Their clients, especially since there's a lot of adaptable change that's happening. So,
Mhm.
Jamie, what do you think? What questions do you have?
Well, Marilyn and Sheila, when you were sharing, Sheila, just a moment ago about your experience helping with succession planning, I did that with the county that you and I live in when I worked there as their leadership and organizational development division director. I help them put in a succession plan in place. And I understand about working with those not only that are currently in the position to identify those folks that are moving in, potentially could move into that position. How do we identify them? What are we looking for? Because they're doing the role and the job and they're having to think about all the things that they do. Now, who do I have on my team that could potentially move into this slot? And then what are the gaps that they have? And how do we make sure that they are ready when that time, that opportunity presents itself for them? So then once they do the identification, now you've got to help understand where those gaps are and work with the people that they've got slated for those positions. So I did that. So I truly understand the process of working on both sides. But something that I hear often and have, even felt myself is that this stage where leaders are, in the promotion and they've accepted that. And that, like, just like Marilyn asked, leaders sometimes underestimate their ability.
Mhm.
A lot of these high performing leaders feel, I guess I would refer to it as that unexpected self-doubt during that transition where they move into that executive level, even though on the outside, excuse me, it looks like they're confident, right? They're ready for this. But it's that quiet, am I still adding value in
Mhm.
the same way? So now they're starting to second guess themselves. So I'm wondering, what do high performing leaders feel internally during that transition, but rarely say out loud?
Yes. Perfect timing. I just did a masterclass on this, and we talked about three different blind spots. And I'm grabbing my reference to my notes, but the three different blind spots. One is the waiting game, right? They're waiting to speak up because they feel, oh, they've got more time than me, and maybe I need to earn my value before I can step in. That's wrong. I come up with a strategy that says in the first third of any meeting, speak up, say a question, even if it's just an observation, do something so that not only lets others know you're in the room, but it helps to boost your confidence. It gives visibility to why they chose you, right? Because they did choose you. Another one is uh, I'm just, I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't want to um maybe like the performer trap. I don't want to disrupt what's going on. I don't want to um make anyone feel as if I'm being disrespectful. That could be cultural. But you need to go ahead and get in there and think about what are ways in which you can use what your natural strength, your natural talent as you're in that conversation. Now, the competency trap, the one you mentioned, absolutely. This is where I didn't realize I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And then it starts this whole thing, which I support the research and everything around imposter syndrome, but I'm a little bit of a rogue, and I'd like to challenge it a smidge here. I just want us to make sure, is it imposter syndrome or is it something else? Like, could it be a sign that's telling you something about a situation? And so when you're feeling that way, what's the evidence that's telling you that you're not worthy? What's the evidence that's telling you you don't have the skills? Let's make sure we unearth what's the reality before we just slap this label on it that's called imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I've heard of the imposter syndrome before, and I think we all have. But I think it could be, and you can just chime in because you're the expert here. But it seems to be that there's this sense of loss, right? Because they used to be, or they used to feel very confident in their prior role as kind of the go-to expert, and they solve problems. But now that success at this next higher level kind of looks different for them,
Yeah.
right? And that shift can feel, I think what you're saying is unsettling,
Yeah.
even if they were looking forward to the promotion, that they've
Mhm.
worked hard to achieve. And I know I've heard Dr. Marilyn, first name here, about experiences of when you get to that level, it's loneliness at the top, right?
Hmm.
Because decision making now seems a lot heavier and there are fewer people. And this, I think, is key that they
Mhm.
feel comfortable being fully honest with about their own uncertainty. What are your thoughts? What do you think about that?
You said so many things in that, so let me see if I can pull them out there because one of which is with the competency trap. Let me just revisit that for a second. One of the things I want to understand is what playbook are you using in this new role? Because the blind spot might be that you're using the playbook that got you here.
Ooh,
That's
Oh,
not the
yeah.
playbook that's going to extend you
I
in
love
this
that.
level, right?
speak it, speak it, speak it,
So
girl, speak
let's
it.
just make sure we're playing to the right playbook. You were the expert over there, and this is asking you to be more strategic than tactical over here. So we
Yeah.
need to re-engineer that playbook. So that's one of the things I want to make sure we stand out because that's my passion spot. What playbook are we playing to? And do we need to re-engineer some ways in which you're thinking about playing those runs? Because that's not it right here, right? That's not going to work over here. Now, um,
Mm-hmm.
what's really the concern when you are in this role? What's the thinking that's causing you? So these are blind spots, right? The way that you're currently thinking about this role, is that actually helping or serving you, or is it hindering you? Because you could be causing your own blind spot.
Yeah.
Right? So the
Exactly.
playbook and the skills from the past that got you here may not work, and the way that you are thinking is not working. And now all of a sudden, here's where this really plays in. You just got the promotion.
Mhm.
Everybody else has been here longer than you. Your mind is starting to swirl with all these inner conversations you're having with yourself. You see that these folks are at a higher level. So now the pressure's on, the heat is high. In all this world, what do you think will happen? You will now default to what you know best, which is the old success playbook.
Mm.
You just
Oh,
added this, it's a blind
Speak
spot
it.
that they don't realize. You
yeah.
everything that you were worried and concerned about, you just had you called it in, you manifested it.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Mm.
So
Wow.
let's just take a moment and pause.
Ooh,
What
I
do you
think that's the
call it that?
twist. I think that's a
I do
twist right
too.
there. Yeah. You named the discomfort early and normalized it
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
through the speech.
I
Right?
I agree. Yeah, it's
yeah.
more of the transition of emotional and identity based, right? As you're sharing with us, Sheila, as it is strategic or skill based, right?
Yeah. It may
Mm.
not have anything to do with what you can do. It could have everything to do with how you're thinking.
Yeah,
Mm. I
And
love
I
it.
say presence is an inside job. It's not just putting on the right exterior. Yes, that's important. It's
right.
not ensuring that you have the right words and you're saying that those things are important. But where's the weight really need to go? If you're
Yeah.
thinking differently, everything else will play out.
Yeah. So just to transition because I mean, we were talking about blind spots, but now we're going to kind of shift a little bit on why smart leaders they tend to get stuck, because we want to now start getting into the nitty gritty here, right,
Mhm,
Sheila?
mhm, mhm.
So, we know that what really stalls these talented leaders, and they are talented, it
Yeah,
isn't a lack of skill or experience,
yeah.
right? It's what they can't see yet. And to me, that really resonates, especially at that higher echelon level where these folks, they're highly capable. So, question for you is, from your work, what are the most common blind spots you see showing up for these leaders, and how do those blind spots tend to quietly limit their impact?
Um, the waiting game, I go back to that, is definitely number one. They're thinking I can't step in too soon.
Mm.
I want to give respect to everyone that's out there. Oh goodness, there's so many. Um,
Can
I
I
would,
ask you right there,
yeah.
with the waiting game? Why do they wait? Do they have to wait? Is there some type of playbook that says you have to wait?
There
Oh,
isn't. You're absolutely right. Here's the thing: the blind spot is not. Here are the top 5 blind spots. I'm just going to put a disclosure out there for that, because your blind spot, in my opinion, is based on you. Everyone has a unique blind spot.
mm,
Could be driven by your rearing years, right? Your formative years, your experiences, right? The things that you have had happen to you, or where you lived, and those you've interacted with. I will personally tell you, I've had positions that I absolutely loved. I could have stayed there forever. And I've had some positions that I would if I would diagnose as corporate PTSD. For
I
that
love that
dramatic,
in there.
okay? I would give it
been
that
there,
title.
been there.
I
Mm,
would give it that title. Now, without going into any of those details, now think about that. Depending on who the individuals were, on the good and the bad, how we interacted with each other, the relationships we've had, the organizational structure, the things that they did within the organization that were policies and procedures and reinforced the environment that they were trying to breed or did not. All of those are going to be unique to me. So my blind spot will be unique to me and my experiences. How my family raised me, how my parents, my siblings. I've lived in several different states. So each of those experiences, I've traveled to multiple different countries. That's going to be different than someone who maybe have had a success track record in their career. They've never had to leave their town. They've never been married, or maybe they may have married only once. I've been married twice. So that's going to be a different perspective.
mm.
So all these things are going to come into what might be my unique blind spot. I love the question, but I want to make sure we look at it from that blind spot's going to be very unique to you and your experiences.
Yeah,
That makes so much sense. That makes a lot of sense.
it
And,
does.
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I can see why your book is so popular for leaders, and they're picking it up and trying to see, especially as they go through these promotions or just on the new jobs, why blind spots, understanding them can makes a huge difference into how you carry out your new responsibilities, especially as those new leaders or leaders who have transferred to a different department.
Yeah.
Wow, what amazing. Just the bit that you've covered here already, I feel like turning the page. Woo, woo,
I
woo. What's next?
exactly.
Could I add to that? I'll tell you, Jamie, you said what are the common ones? I'll tell you what people commonly say when you know you're in a blind spot. How about that?
Oh, love it, love
I
it.
I should know how to do this already.
Mm,
I had I had an expectation that they would bring me to the table.
mm,
So it's the script that you're saying to yourself when you feel that tension, that conflict, that inner conflict. That's my master question I always ask: what's the situation asking of you? Because now that's showing you your blind spot,
mm.
right? They should know this already. Why did they even put me in this job? I don't have any of that experience. See the scripts that you're telling yourself? That's the blind spot.
Your inner narrator.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And if I ask myself, why would be put somewhere, I would think, hmm,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
They
have to
should know
fire
that
my own
about
self
me.
from that job.
Yep, they should know this about me already. They read my all
Hmm.
these shoulda, couldas, whys. When I
Well,
hear those, I go, "Whoo! I think we got one."
well, why do you think these blind spots are so difficult for these leaders at this level? I mean, you've had some success.
Yeah,
I know what you're sharing because I've read your book. It's fantastic. And I love how you really integrate a lot of that personal stuff. So it shows where you came from, the influences that you had. You're now that those influences have built on your perceptions of things, and you've got that kind of a screen that you're looking out at everybody.
hmm,
But when you reach that echelon level, that executive level, how are those? I mean, you've had so much success and your confidence should be there.
Mm.
And now we're sharing that there are these blind spots that it's not. So what are you seeing that's so difficult for folks at this level to be able to see?
that's a fabulous question. And I will tell you, it doesn't matter if you're the CEO and you're quietly dealing with these blind spots, or if you're new, you've just stepped into a director role or a VP role, and they're very obvious for you, and you feel like they're obvious for others. Number one, we're human.
Mm.
So it's almost like expecting the minister of a church will never have any faults. Well, yeah, they will. They're human. They're man, right? So
Mhm.
it's expecting the CEO or the president or the vice president would never have any of these issues. Like they should feel they're human. And I'm not the neuroscientist. I'm just geeky about it. So I've studied it some. We have a natural default that when something is happening that doesn't feel quite right to us, it's our sensors are going off, our thinking is firing off these negative things, then all of a sudden it kicks in to serve and protect, right? I'm either going to fight, I'm going to fight, flight, I'm going to freeze, or I'm going to fawn. So it's a natural tendency to just, whoa, 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 danger, danger, something's not right. And so we're human. Now, those who are aware of when these triggers are happening, the settings are causing these things, the thinking that's causing them these things, then they can self-regulate that, which is where EQ comes in, right? Right? When
Mhm.
you're aware. But if you're not aware and it becomes a repetitive habit, now you're playing to the old success playbook.
Mm. Wow. Whew, that's something. That is something. So we talked about the personal side of this.
Hmm.
Now let's move into the systems and what this all means to the system, the
Hmm.
organization, and how it plays out. So, how do these blind spots show up in the organization? Through conflict, misalignment, stall influence? What do you see there in
Oh
the
my goodness.
organization?
Yeah. Each organization is going to have a culture that might be breeding a particular blind spot,
Ooh, what you
right?
said? Say that again.
Each
I love that.
organization may have a culture that is breeding a particular blind spot.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Now, if I've worked for a company that's been around for 150 years, can you imagine the playbook they're operating from?
Oh,
If
oh
I've
my
worked for
gosh.
a company who is tremendously financially successful, can you imagine the blind spots that they may be operating and setting?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
what if we just started? We have nothing as a point of reference. There could be some blind spots that they're breeding there too.
Oh my gosh.
So the
You,
culture. This is why, again, people like what do you read when you want to do something? I'm reading something around organizational leadership and human dynamics and behavior because that's what gets me excited. So if the culture, now that's one layer. And the company could be doing everything right, but there's another layer, the leadership. People don't leave companies. Usually they leave their leader. Right? It's because of something that they got to a point where we're not aligned in our values,
Right.
and it's time
Yes.
for us to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you have the role itself and where you're at personally in your stage in life. And it could be all three. The organization's not really supporting, the leadership, the department is not really supporting this. And maybe this is at a stage in my life where I need to leave. And I can tell you that's what recently happened to me. I made that decision in December to say, hey, you know what, we're just no longer aligned.
Right.
And so I said, okay, Big Four, it's time to go. We're good. Thank you for the time we've had together. Start singing my Carol Burnett song and keep it moving. I'm so glad we had this time together, but it's
Together.
now time to go.
Love it. I love it. I really do love. Girl, I am loving this conversation. Oh my
A lot
goodness.
of memories coming back.
What you talking about? And after this conversation is over, I could sit down and just talk with you two about it even more because you hit some great points here. You
Mhm.
got a lot of great nuggets, and I hope our audience is picking up on those. So, at what point does a personal blind spot become an enterprise risk?
Oh,
Yeah.
good question,
I
Marilyn. Good
love
question.
that. I love that. Well, Jamie, you probably saw this story in the book. I had to speak to a group of executives who were in transition, and a search firm was actually pulling them together as a collective. And so they would bring in guest speakers from time to time. And one of the hardest things, so this is where confidence is good and confidence can get in the way, ego can get in the way, right?
Mm,
And so in speaking to them, I asked them a question: are you chewing on a bitter stick? And they were like, what are you talking about? I said, so let me share my story. I thought I was okay with the dismissal because sometimes at that level, it's by your choice and sometimes it's not,
no, yeah.
right? It can go either way, right? And
Hmm.
so, regardless of which way you went, let's say, well, go lean to the side that it wasn't your choice to leave. And they said, hey, so glad we had this time together, but you need to go,
Hmm.
right? So now you're having some bitterness about that. We're human.
That's right.
And we think we would have come to terms with it. At least we tell ourselves, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Hmm.
But it could be showing up in your interviews. The way you're thinking is coming out in the way you're behaving.
Hmm.
So let's say if
Decision
you're
making.
interviewing and they're asking you questions and you're thinking, they should already know that from my resume. Well, how would they know that? All they have is a piece of paper. They're trying to get to know you, right?
Hmm.
So when we start seeing these different things, the question really is, are you chewing on the bitter stick? Now you may have taken 3/4 of it out, 80%, 90% of it out, but if there's any little residue in there, it's going to show.
Yeah.
It's going to show.
Chewing
Right?
on the bitter stick.
Just
Ooh,
chewing on it just a smidgy.
I like that.
Love
Chewing.
it. Love
Oh,
it.
oh, wow.
Layers and layers being
Wow.
uncovered here.
So, oh my gosh. Whew. So executive presence is often misunderstood, and Jamie and I talk about executive presence, especially Jamie. Uh, that's her sweet spot. It's often misunderstood. From your work, what is it actually about, and what is it not when it comes to executive presence around your role, blind spots?
And I would definitely want Jamie to weigh in on this because I know she's a guru on this as well. I believe it starts with your values. Do you know who you are today?
Hmm.
Right? So when you are thinking about where there's an alignment in your presence, it's more than just the exterior. It's your character. It's your values and where you're at. It's much more deeper than that. So I have folks to really think about. I just had a client last week. I said, I want you to take some time and just go to Think to Perform, the THINK, the number two, and perform. They've got a free card values assessment thing that you can take. And I said, I want you to identify your top five. Now, we all have many values, but what are the anchors that are pulling you in? And
Mm.
what's the definition of that anchor? Because sometimes people say, well, family is my anchor. Is that definition the same today as it was yesterday, 10 or 15 years ago, right? So it's around that. Um, Presence is also, to me, ensuring that you're staying, I'm not saying positive Pollyanna, but what's the good in what you're hearing that's so bad? That's that EQ, self regulating your character. If you are constantly nitpicking, you are speaking about your character. If you're constantly looking for faults or expecting, that's your character. So your
Exactly.
composure and your character, those are things that I think weigh into it. The way you are making choices. Are you reactive? That's a presence.
Wow.
Exactly.
Or are you calm?
Exactly.
Right?
Wow.
Jamie, I'm sure there's tons you would even add to it. It's
Well,
much deeper than
I
that.
can. I can hear because what you're saying, your composure and all those things, that's the focus on what leaders do and say externally.
Hmm.
But what you're sharing with values and what you talk about in your book, at least on presence, is internal,
Hmm.
right? So I'm just wondering though if maybe there's a story or an example from your experience, maybe a client or a leader that you've worked with about the kind of inner work that it takes to sustain presence when
Hmm.
the pressure is really high.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good one.
It
Hmm.
is a good one. It is a good one. There's so versus a client leader. Can I do a personal?
Oh, your
Mhm.
choice. We're happy to hear anything you want to share.
I'd like to do this as a personal one to help kind of tie this into how the internals is functioning on the outside. So I remember having a client who um, had quite a different perspective in which during the conversation, she said something that immediately triggered my own values. So I have to be mindful of this. I'm not perfect. I'm human too. I'm not an AI coach. I'm a human coach. And so in that moment, I had to pause. I had to self regulate because my three core values are grace, dignity, and respect.
Mm.
And
I
that's
love
what I'm
them.
always pulling on. Now, there are a couple of others that are hanging on the side just in case I need to grab them and pull them in. But those three get the most weight. And that's because it's not just what I extend to others, it's also what I extend back to myself.
Hmm.
That's how I'm self regulating. Am I giving myself grace? Am I giving others grace? Am I holding others whole? Am I keeping myself whole? Am I respecting a differing of opinion? Am I respecting my own opinion? Am I breaking my own boundaries? Right. So those are my three core anchors. Okay. And she said something that I'm human really rubbed me the wrong way because I thought, wow, she has a belief around something that is truly against my values.
Wow. Mm.
Now
Girl,
I
how
could have,
did you
and that,
compose yourself with all of that?
yeah, and that I've had a lot of HR training, so I do know how to sit there and have a poker face.
Well, I
And
may need
just
that training there.
just
I
go,
mean, because, whew,
yeah, just interesting.
yeah.
That when she said what she said, the best thing that I thought that I could come up with to keep myself whole, to keep her whole, to respect her opinion, and make sure it doesn't seep into my spirit
Hmm.
was just to say that is one way to look at it.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to take that note because I tell you, both you ladies, when I come across that in my busy life, the first response is sometimes I remain calm and smile and move on, but you keep nudging at me and nudging at me. Sometimes I go out of character. Is
I've
that,
seen it. It's
yeah,
always welcome though, because I'm always very admiring you, Marilyn, when that happens. So I'm
yeah.
like,
And
yes, because
so,
you're saying exactly what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. So
yeah, and so I then I have to bring myself back and have that conversation a little bit later. Remember presence, remember your values, remember what this is about, remember your goals. And I think that's when it comes to the point when you see that happen for me. When I see that happening, third strike is out. And it's like, okay, relook at yourself and see if this is the place for you to be, or this is the group you want to be working with. And I have to take myself out of that particular situation because it's it's like a sore or something, just or a bump, or I just, I don't know, something that just keeps nudging and nudging and nudging because you know that this person is trying to, or people are trying to push you over that boundary. They don't want that executive presence to be there.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Sheila, what my last one on this one is how does presence shift as leaders move from doing to being seen? And I think that speaks to what I just said.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
this example I gave, that nudge that bothers me sometimes when I get to that third strike with the individual or group, and I'm like, it's time to be out of here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, different situations are going to call for different things. If there's no safety risk involved,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, I'm not suggesting you do this. I call it my 3D authentic presence formula. I don't suggest this if the house you smell smoke. That's not what this is for. I need you to dial 911, right? But if you're in an organization and you're dealing with these people pressing your hot buttons, or at least it feels like they're hitting on my button, they're doing this, they're doing that. I probably coach a little bit around that and wonder what the they, if we're always pointing fingers at them, that's a different coaching conversation. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're in a situation and you're like, I'm trying to figure this out. How do I figure this out? Then that's where I say step into the 3D authentic presence formula. You do need to pause to get in there. And in
Mm-hmm.
90 seconds, because I'm practical, executives don't have a lot of time to kind of go through all this theory and then this kind of container to practice and then see if it works, right? Now, sometimes
Amen.
it's in the moment when your CEO is saying something to you and you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's not quite setting right with me. Right? Or you're a boss or you're a teammate, right? The first D is to define the realities. What's going on out here,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you may be making assumptions around things, but
Mm-hmm.
just take
That's
30
true.
seconds just to readjust your thinking on that. What are the realities that are happening in the outside? We're in a meeting, the leader is frustrated over something, we're not hitting our numbers, whatever it might be, but just get that out, because the more you're holding it in, you're causing this reaction to it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Then the
Yes.
second step is to discover, and that's discover your own realities. What's going on the inside? Now, depending on what's going on in the situation, you know, I'm agitated that it's taking too long in this meeting. They keep bringing up the same thing over and over again. They're not all working together, whatever it might be, but just spend 30 seconds on it. So now we got a minute. And then the last 30 seconds, based on what you know is the reality of what's going on, and outside and in, what's the optimal choice for your highest leadership, your
Mm.
self leadership? Because who can you control? You.
Only yourself.
I can't stop the leader from swirling all over the place and not being clear about what they're saying. I
Right.
can't cause my team members to stick to an agenda that they don't want to stick to. And
Mm-hmm.
I can choose to be angry at everybody doing their natural thing and me choosing not to say anything or to say something and causing. I get to choose. I get to choose if I want to be frustrated about this or if I just want to say, hey, guys, this has been great. Thank you for sharing this time. I gotta go.
Yeah. I like that last sentence right there. The last two sentences make so much sense. Because I don't think that people, even when I'm coaching clients, I notice like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
What's the deal here? You don't have to put up with all of this stuff that you're saying you're having to put up with. And
No.
you choose. You're the only one that you have to be happy with. What do you think, Jamie?
Well, and while I've been listening to Sheila and you, Marilyn, have this conversation, I've got all kinds of things. Because basically, bottom line, we're talking about having a level of emotional intelligence that you can adjust your own behaviors, your own response to that of the situation and the individuals or the people, right? We have to be
Mhm.
able to do that. Executives are expected to have that composure, that level of external presence. Now, but just like we've been talking about, it's that internal stuff that's going on. It's those moments where presence seems to be breaking down for us, right?
Mhm.
And so, my I guess my question for you, Sheila, and based on what, because obviously it seems like we've all been there, because we're all like, can I remember this? Yes. Have you seen examples though with maybe with a client or someone you've coached where a leader unknowingly undermined their own presence from their behaviors because they lacked that EI stuff or that emotional quotient?
Absolutely. I have so many of those stories. I don't know if we have enough time for that.
Mm. That's another twist right there.
That's a whole nother episode, but I'll share one or two. Oh my goodness. A leader so frustrated walking into the room and slamming on the table.
Mm.
Like what was behind that? Right? Just so many different things. A
Oh.
leader knowingly coming in and choosing not to say one word.
Mm.
So there's two extremes to this. The one that's very belligerent and the one that says, no, I'm not, I'm going to let them, they'll figure it out. I don't, the conflict avoidance leader,
Avoidance.
and
Mm-hmm.
then the leader who wants
The
Mm.
conflict
competitive
all the
one.
time.
Yeah.
Mm.
Then you've got other leaders who can never take a position, right? Well, maybe if we do this, well, someone else, and then they just switch. Someone else said that maybe they don't make a decision and ride on that decision, whether it might be pan out to be good or bad, but it's their decision to hold on to.
Wow.
They're constantly switching sides.
Mm, yes. Woo. Seen that too. And when you said the leader that comes in that needs that attention, it took me back to a time when I was working with a gentleman and he was the senior leader. And literally, we wouldn't do, he got so upset. He got on top of the desk and started stumping. I'm like, what is going on? What's happening? And this was during my younger years in leadership. And I'm like, I definitely don't want to do that. Uh, but it was so amazing.
Yeah.
This person would get so theatrical about attention and how he wanted something done. So
Hmm.
thank you for that one, because that is where, oh my gosh,
Can I
neuroscience and coaching depth shines.
can I add one more?
Yeah.
Sure.
And I tell my clients when I lean into the screen, this is going to be deep.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So I'm leaning into the screen. This one's going to be deep for everyone to check because we may have done it. The leader who who bows down to the leaders above and peek their direct reports as if they don't exist.
Wow.
When the senior leaders come in, they're fawning all over the place. But in their team, they're being very disrespectful. They're just tolerating them.
Mm.
Are we kind of ready to move into the next
Yes.
segment of it, the listening and the power and the impact? Because I think
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
important for us too. And I think, Sheila, with regards to your echo listening intelligence framework, I thought that we should touch on that. So kind of move forward a little bit here. But what would you say, when leaders hear what's being said, but they don't really listen? So can you kind of unpack that a bit for us? What's the difference between just hearing and truly listening? And we know how important listening is, but why does it matter so much at the leadership level?
It really does. Well, echo listening intelligence is an instrument. It's a proprietary instrument, and that's not mine. I'm just certified to interpret the results of this assessment and help with understanding them. But there are four core listening patterns, and when you take
Mm,
this assessment, it will give you information around what's your pattern, what's your profile, what are your habits for listening. And the four habits either deal with conceptual, kind of big picture, reflective, more internal, analytical, more on the data and facts, or can't remember the fourth one. Anyway, you're looking more outward.
Right.
mm,
So one is outward, one is inward, one is more around big picture, and the other one is around facts and data. And so whatever those combinations are, and you may have a single dominance, a dual dominance, a tri-dominance, or what's called a flexor, which you're shuffling between the two very fluently, but do you know how you when you're doing that and how you're doing that? So that's just kind of some framework around the echo listening. Okay, why is that important? Because it's not just what I'm listening and my patterns of that with others. It may be my own pattern, what I'm telling myself, how I'm listening to myself. So think about this. If I'm honed in as an analytical primary, you know, dominant pattern for me, and then I move into reflective as a next secondary, right? So I'm looking for the data that's going to best plus please me. And
mm,
it's not being selfish because one is saying I'm checking for accuracy. I'm checking to make sure if this makes sense. And the other one may be around, well, does this make sense for what I need for what needs to be required of me?
mm,
Let's see if it's more from concern of others. Well, if I'm looking at that data and it's going to have this, and I'm thinking it's going to have a huge impact on our organization, am I looking at it from different lenses? So now my behavior may be showing in a certain way based on the way that I'm listening. And those are misperceptions. Some people think that if they see someone sitting like this and they're, got a furrowed eyebrow, that they're angry. It could be they're processing data internally.
mhm. Exactly.
Some people think that when someone hasn't said anything and they're kind of just taking it all in and they're just really, deep into it, the conversation, they may think, wow, they're fully engaged. No, it could be just they're processing some of their own data points around what will be helpful for what they see, the pieces that they see connecting to each other.
Mm,
You can really tell listening patterns more so by what they're saying than what they're doing.
mm,
Right? So if they're asking for a lot of data information, then they're probably they could be, right? We'd want to get some facts around that. If they're asking questions like, well, when will we need to have this done and what's the impact on me? What's required of me? Maybe they're more reflective. If they're asking the impact of the organization, that's the concern for others. Or if they don't say anything and all of a sudden they get this burst of energy and they start connecting these ideas, that's a conceptual listener. But there could be some combination, and that's why it's so important. We're all uniquely made. And I, for me in my coaching practice, I want to ensure I understand your patterns for listening so that I can help you identify where there might be some blind spots.
Are there strategies? I'm just curious, how do you, when you're coaching, how do you determine what their style of listening is?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's contextual, analytical, data-driven, their own internal desire to apply it towards what their objectives are. How do you determine that? I mean, that is so interesting.
I have them take this, it's a 10-minute neuroscience based assessment, but you can only get it from those who are certified in the instrument.
Okay.
And it's solid. I'm like a certification guru and behavioral. I worked at different companies that attached to different assessments, so I had to get certified in it. That's how I got all these
Okay.
certifications. But this one, I absolutely love it. If it takes you more than 10 minutes to do it, you're already overthinking it. And I tell people that don't just go with what's your instinct on this. And then we walk through an interpretation, a debrief of this assessment, and it gives us what might be the specific strategies for you, what's something that you want to attach to, maybe just to start. It also helps you with understanding the 4 core listening patterns and how your pattern, your profile responds to others. So
Wow.
this 10-minute assessment gives you everything you need, and me as your coach, to help build a wonderful strategy around your blind spots.
Well, I know that Marilyn and I have had many discussions, and we end up leading into based a lot of the strategy stuff that we talk about leadership and all the emotional intelligence, executive presence, all the things that we've been discussing, and even now, the extreme value it is for a leader to
Mm-hmm.
have someone external
Mm-hmm.
that they can share kind of what's going on in their thought process. Am I thinking correctly? Am I on the right path? About what are all the blind spots that you see that I'm probably having that executive coach, that you have someone there, in the wings to pull from, to help support you as you kind of manifest and change your thought process,
Mm-hmm.
reset your mindset, do a mindset shift. How important. I mean, that's not a question. I'm making a statement here, because everything that we're sharing lends to what we all three of us know is the extreme value, and especially moving into another position, a higher level position, having that person to help you, guide you through all this is so critical to your success and the organization and the people that you work with. But I just made that comment, but I'd really like to kind of ask you a second question before we go into the next part of it, which Marilyn will lead on. Talk about positional power and communication, because I think this is important to just consider.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I've noticed is that the higher someone rises in an organization, the more their position seems to affect how others perceive what they're saying. From your experience, how does positional power kind of distort what leaders think they're communicating versus what's actually received?
Oh, I love that question. I remember telling a client who was promoted into the C-suite, and she reached out to me because she wanted to have an executive coach during that transition. And I said to her, the higher you go, the less you know. And she said, what are you talking about? I said, people are not going to tell you what you need to know like they did before. They're going to keep a distance from you, because now all eyes on you, watching you to model what they're trying to aspire to.
Yep.
So it's like the emperor wearing no clothes. They're not going to tell you, which is why I also encourage 360s when I'm coaching, because we need to get the perspective of what's going on out there that they're not telling you. They're willing to do it anonymously. They just don't want to do it to you up front, right? Say it to you up front. So the higher you go, the less you know. And so, there's so many things that can play into that, Jamie. Don't let ego be your blind spot. I got this job. I
I got
deserved
you.
it.
Mm.
Sometimes that can play into it. But if high ego, everyone has an ego. So if an overarching ego is not your blind spot, good. Then what is it that you do know, and how are you? This is where that executive presence come in. Are you inviting people in so that they can share and trust? Are you building an environment of psychological safety for conflict and dialogue, for disagreement? Conflict's not bad. It's unresolved conflict that's bad.
Yes. Amen.
It's like in a marriage, right?
Mhm.
Conflict is bad when you don't resolve it. You
Mhm.
resolve it. Then it gets stronger. The relationship actually builds. But if a leader's conflict avoidance and not wanting to learn and understand and think they have all the answers. Yeah, it's a huge blind spot. And it's showing in your team and in your organization. They're going to stop thinking innovatively and just do exactly what you say.
Yes. I love that. And we're going to move on into like how you integrate all of this. So,
Yes.
question, Sheila. If a newly promoted VP is listening out there,
Mhm.
what should they stop doing immediately?
Mm.
I know we worked you today, girl.
We have. We appreciate your time so much. It was good stuff.
No, no, no. I love this. You know why I'm pausing on that is because I know what we want to know what they should stop doing, but but can I put a start, stop, and start? I don't know if that was the direction that you were going with.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, because we always have a tendency, again, it's a natural tendency. What do I need to improve? What do I need to do differently? I'm feeding into that default neural network with the negative thought. So I'm going to try to pull in some prefrontal cortex thinking and positivity here and just say, let's start with being grateful you've just got this position. They saw something in you. They identified a potential in you, and they are putting a lot of faith and support and guidance to help you get there. Even if you don't see it yet, let's just claim that that's going to be there and think positive. Wow, I got this job. And I may not know what I don't know today, but I'm excited to get in there and to learn how I can continue to grow and help others with growing too. Let's start there and then go to a stop with what's something that I would need to let go that's going to interfere with me riding this momentum. What worked in the past that I believe is not going to work in this new role, and let's stop doing that.
Mm.
Because that's no longer going to be the playbook here. I'm not going to provide instructions that are detailed for my team anymore. I'm going to allow them to build their own instructions, things like that. And
Wow.
then start practicing whatever it is that we're going to continue with the start. And then whatever we need to stop with the stop and then start again. Just start experimenting. The more you open your mind to it being an experiment, then the more you'll see success re-engineer itself in your playbook.
So you're saying experiencing it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to make a mistake, but it's not okay not to try.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Mm, that is awesome. So I think what was one intentional shift that creates the biggest external leadership gain? And then we're going to begin to close it out.
Repeat that for me again.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were going. I could sit with you about 3 hours, honey.
Me
Uh,
too. I
what's
would
one
join you.
intentional shift that creates the biggest external leadership gain?
What's the one biggest shift,
Internal that can
internal
create
shift,
biggest, yeah, external leadership gain. So what,
internal shift, external
mhm,
leadership gain? Gotcha.
yeah.
I don't have all the answers.
Okay.
I'm just going to go with that.
Yeah.
I think when leaders they get promoted and they think I should know this already. If you could shift from believe it it's the belief system that we're shifting. If we could shift the belief of what we think we should to what I think I can, that's going to change outwardly. If I'm going into any setting, in person, virtual conferencing, a platform, whatever it is, if I'm going in there with the mindset of, I think I should, it's a heavy word. You're already feeding into that. But if you go into it, I know I can, now you've just reframed that.
Yeah. So if we take that to the point of the conversation we were having. I was giving an example of those three things. Oh my gosh, they hit me. And that's the third strike, and I gotta go. Instead, because that was if that was an internal thing for me, that third strike, it created the biggest external leadership probably lost or gain, the way you see it, because seeing that sometimes I think establishes what's next, that this is a done thing. It's completed its cycle. And now it's time for you to grow into the next cycle.
Exactly.
I
Let
love
me
that,
use
Marilyn.
what you just said because Coach Sheila's picking up on something. I'm going to just take the liberty of coaching around that. So this is where the person's nudging and they nudging
Mhm.
and then they nudging. We get to the third strike and like Sheila, I'm done. I'm tired. I don't want to deal with this anymore. They
Hmm.
have pressed my buttons all too many times. Okay. I should have just left in the after the first nudge. No, I was stubborn. I had to wait. I was trying to give them grace and patience, and I stayed around for another nudge. And then I'm frustrated because I'm hanging out for this second nudge. And
Hmm.
lo and behold, a third nudge hit. Now I'm ready to blow.
Hmm.
Nobody has time for this. I should have just left on the first or the second. I put myself through. That's where the frustration is. You're frustrated at what you felt like you should have done differently. I should. Put a
Hmm.
lot of weight on that because it's that heavy. It's causing all of that. Is
Yeah.
there another way to think about this third strike?
Mm.
Oh,
What
gosh.
it taught you something on the first, it taught you something on the second, and it gave you even greater lesson on the third.
Yes.
So now that you've got your data from three experiences, what's another way to look at the third strike?
Growth to me.
And
And you
you,
may not see that like that, but growth for the person because they're finally into that spot where there's no longer thinking what I shoulda, coulda, woulda, is do it.
well, and now I can. Now I can identify nudges. I can trust my nudge identifier, right? Like whatever you want to call it, your beacon, your nudge beaker,
Hmm.
your radar, your nudge radar. When it
Hmm.
hits the first time, I can trust it the first time and not wait for the next two strikes.
That's true too. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's a confidence level, right? Because
mm,
what I'm hearing you describe, Sheila, is that, the for leaders, the potential when leaders can finally see what they couldn't see before.
Yes.
They can finally recognize it, and that the fact that maybe it takes the three nudges before they can finally, see what's really in front of them before they make any
Yeah,
irrational decisions. And that's tough
exactly.
to do because
It
just like
is tough.
Marilyn says, it's a lot of growth right there. That's
Yes.
mhm,
that's some deep stuff, deep reflection and acknowledgement and awareness.
Yeah.
yeah.
Now that's not going to happen from a little quickie laser coaching session. There's going to be some things around that. I'd want to know how is that typically the pattern, the three strikes you're out. Now I'm originally from New York. That was my motto. Three strikes, you mess with me, you out. I don't do that anymore, right? Maybe I need to bring it back. I don't know, but it's just
Oh
so we
no.
want to understand where's that coming from? What's the belief that's holding on to this principle you're operating off of, this value? Your values
Mhm,
are your operating principle, right? That's your system. So what's keeping you holding on to that? And then we can start re-engineering it. But I'm just using that as a quick high level laser coaching kind of thing as we've learned something on the first. You said you mentioned you should have stopped, you knew better.
mhm,
Said it on the second, and now you're at a frustration point. What might this be telling you?
mm.
Peeling back the layers one
Yeah,
at a time.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it tells you, for me, being a person or and coaching others as well, but I coach myself sometimes to go through these scenarios. And if it was me in this scenario, this third time you're out, it would be, what are you learning each nugget, each nudge?
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
happened? What did you learn? Why did you look at this that way? And why did you stay in this particular situation? Because we're calling it a nudge, but it sounds like something much more explosive here. It's not a simple situation. That three times you're out for an experienced leader in a situation, they're going through a lot of different back and forths with themselves,
Yeah.
with the context of what they're having to deal with, and then they're deciding, no, this is enough right here.
Yeah.
And because sometimes when you go through those nudges, I think you've already begun the growth process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a ton of awareness around it. Leaders are making, the research shows, over 30,000 decisions every day,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Some are huge and some are small. And I'm supposed to keep up with all of them? No.
I would love seeing this in your paper. When you get to this and you have to write about this, please get on a
Share,
call with
share.
Dr. Jamie and I, because this is going to be one of those questions more than likely in your doctoral studies.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure it will be. I just want to encourage everyone to just trust yourself. Your emotions and senses are like the dashboard on a car. They're signaling
Mm,
something,
Ooh, I like that.
right? When your tire's flat, you get the little light that says, "Hey, you might want to check your tire." When gas is low, you get a little light that says you might want to put some gas in the car. When you are feeling something, and when I say feeling, your body is reacting, it's sensing something physiologically, right? That's feeling. If you have emotions that are stirring, those are the other areas. These are two separate things. So when those are going off, when your mind is swirling or thinking on a track, I say align your three minds, your mind, your heart, and your intuition. Get them aligned, pause and check around those three and ask yourself, what is this situation asking of me right now, in this moment? That's going to be your best strategy. And have
I,
it anchor back to your values, your core values. In that moment, there will be then no regrets. I don't have regrets of telling a chief of staff what he needed to do differently with his records. I don't have any regrets of telling someone about the caregiving of my mom when she was going through the final stages of life. I do have regrets when I didn't have those values aligned, and that's why now I do this. Because you
yeah.
need to line up. You need to align to who you really are, not the expectations of others.
I love it. And what a way for close us out, because I think we had another question, but I think you answered it by that scenario, that coaching moment.
Yeah.
Um, because what we just discussed, that person who would have gone through the three nudges or three examples was previously, those things, some things were previously invisible to them, and now they were visible on that third try. It was maybe invisible, but not so quite. You know what I'm saying? I saw it, but I didn't see it. I felt it, but I didn't feel it. I understood it, but I didn't understand it. The
Mhm.
third try, I see all three. It's visible. I understand it. I see it. I feel it. Bam. I got to move
Yeah.
because I was learning as I was growing, hopefully. And they were with a coach that helped them to see through those various processes. So I do think it's important that people name things and write out things or diary things, because sometimes when they get in front of the coach, just like when they get in front of the doctor, they forget things that brought them to that point.
I mean, let's think about it. The blind spot is called the blind spot because we can't see it. We're too close to it. It's invisible to us. It's like right here. So that's why you need a coach. The coach is going to be there without judgment, without making assumptions. They're not, at least let me put it this way. I'm the kind of coach, I don't make assumptions and I can't judge. My house is not made of glass, so I can throw any stones.
You know what, Sheila? I have truly enjoyed this session.
Yes.
And I think Jamie chose the right person
Oh, thank you.
Oh, so thank you so much. We will post how you can get in touch with Sheila and her practice. We'll post that in our link on the show when we post the show. We'll have that there, and we'll also have a space on our site to show Dr. Sheila in case you want to get in touch with her.
Future
I know
doctor.
I'm calling you doctor
I-
already. I'm calling it. I'm calling it. I'm putting it out
I'll receive it.
there. Okay. Jamie, you got anything before we close?
I loved what you shared about, the little comment you made about handling your mother's care, because you talk about that in your book. I just think that it's so relevant because that's your values. You brought that in with your decision making for handling that situation, even though your brother was ready to explode. That's you talk about that. But I really like how you are really pulling it back, that we really have to think about what our internal values are and stick to that and hold to those core things there that make us who we are, and think about when we get those nudges, how do those align with our values when we're making those decisions instead of being reactionary. So thank you so much for spending this time with us. I know we kept you a long time, but you have so much to share, so much value, and we're just grateful. And I know the audience is just going to love it.
Thank you for having me. I just appreciate you both, the energy, the warmth, and just we recently met and I feel like we've known each other for years. That speak volumes to your character and your presence. So
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for joining us today on Two Doctors and a Twist.